Okay. So like Jill said, my name is Brandi Barnes. I am a Research Development Manager at IHSI. My area of focus is health equity, and along with Kelsey, I'm also why are we moving? I am also, excuse me, one of the coordinators for our Community Academic Scholars Program. So today I'm going to be discussing health research at the DoD and what to expect of the specific agencies. So you may have seen this earlier today from Kelsey. So when we're talking about the defense health research landscape, these are the agencies that we are going to be focusing on today. And it's important to note that all of these agencies that we're going to be discussing today are mission-oriented, and it's more about finding if your research covers an unmet need in one of these departments. So it's important that you look at their mission and decide how you can help them accomplish it. So these are some current medical research priorities of the DoD. I've highlighted two here, infectious disease and racial equity. Both of these are categories that the new administration has expressed extreme interest in, focusing on, obviously infectious disease in terms of COVID vaccine delivery and all of the issues that go with that. But another priority is racial equity, so it's also something that we help with at IHSI. But they're talking about racial equity in terms of not just social justice issues, but also issues around health disparities in access, care, and also in research. So the first agency that we are going to look at today is CDMRP. So CDMRP, or the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, this was originally founded in 1992 to support breast cancer research. Hallmarks of all CDMRP research programs include the fact that all research funds are specifically targeted by Congress and added to the DoD budget on a yearly basis. They target research according to each program area, and they fund high impact, high risk, and high gain projects that other agencies might not venture to fund. It also was originally created as a way for Congress to assert influence over the biomedical research agenda. So the goals of CDMRP are to invest in groundbreaking research. They target critical research gaps. They fund the full pipeline of research. So that's important to note that they fund anywhere from initial concepts all the way up to clinical trials. They also hope to foster collaboration and synergy. And lastly, they support the next generation of researchers and established scientists. So they actually have some award mechanisms in place that support the training and the mentoring of the next generation of scientists. And they also bring new investigators into the field to ensure that the best possible researchers are available to focus on their efforts in specific areas that are important to the DoD, or specifically CDMRP. It's also important to point out here that they allow for both predoctoral and postdoctoral candidates to be the PI on their research awards, which differs from NIH. Sorry, my slides are like advancing very quickly. So the CDMRP plays a significant role in the medical research funding landscape. This is just a snapshot of the diverse range of research program areas that they are currently managed or supported by CDMRP. Over the years, they've continued to evolve as new programs and topic areas are added and remove ones once they're no longer relevant. Again, all of this is directed by congressional legislation, a majority in response to requests by consumers and disease survivors. So these are just some of the topics that might be of relevance to Illinois researchers. And again, as we heard earlier, to kind of kick off the discussion today. The DoD, but specifically CDMRP, they are the second largest funder for research in breast cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, and lung cancer. So now we're going to talk about the CDMRP funding process in kind of a little bit more detail. So they use a flexible program cycle for all of the congressional appropriations to accommodate kind of all stages of the process. The cycle begins with the receipt of a congressional fiscal appropriation. It's important to note that the proposal windows vary throughout the year. A pre-application is required. It's also very highly competitive. The success rates average around 15%, and that is a range of 10 to 30%. So CDMRP, they strive for transparency in basically kind of all aspects of the process, from the review to the management processes. They provide a like a large array of information on their website. So from information on their programmatic panels, their peer review panelists, they also have searchable data on funded applications that includes their abstracts, the funding amounts, and the research accomplishments. All of that is available at the CDMRP website, and also in each year's annual report to Congress. So we're going to go over this diagram a little bit in kind of detail. So the first major milestone is the vision setting step, which occurs right there. So that is when members from the programmatic panel, they meet to kind of discuss the research landscape in order to establish the program goals that they would like to set. They look at the award mechanisms and any associated funding strategies. And then from these discussions come their recommendation for the award mechanisms that they want to set, that they feel like are going to meet their program goals and attempt to address their critical research gaps. And so after that vision setting meeting, the CDMRP program staff, they present that information to the commanding general of the U.S. Army Medical Research and Material Command, also known as USAMRMC. And then so the program staff manage and develop the funding opportunity announcements for the coming year in coordination with the U.S. Army Medical Research Acquisition Activity. And then it's at this point where the research community is alerted to the upcoming program funding opportunities. So those are found on the CDMRP website. They come through email listserv notifications, and also, as you can see down in the corner, they post those to the electronic biomedical research application portal system, as well as fedbizops.gov. But Maggie Berg is going to go into more detail about the review process next week, so she'll kind of take you through the rest of this diagram. So the next agencies that we're going to discuss are kind of the three highlighted here. So the Army Research Office, the Office of Naval Research, and the Air Force Office of Scientific Research. And again, it's important to look at their missions before you attempt to apply for a funding opportunity. So the missions of these three branches are to manage research to support the goals and the operations of their respective service branches. So the first one that we are going to talk about is the Air Force Office of Scientific Research. I'm sorry, I do not know why these keep advancing without me. So the Air Force Office of Scientific Research, it is a component of the Air Force Research Lab. So their goal is to translate basic research to industry, the academic community, and other directorates of the Air Force Research Lab. They solicit proposals for research through various broad agency announcements, as well as through educational programs, special programs, and university research initiative programs. So in addition to the BAAs, we wanted to kind of talk about these in more detail. So they have educational programs. A proposal is not always required for these. They have special deadlines, special formats, and qualifications, so you want to make sure that you review each of these, specifically before you apply to those. One of those such programs is the Assure program, and the goal of that program is to support undergraduate research in the DoD and relevant disciplines, and the goal there is to increase the number of high-quality undergraduates, science and engineering majors who ultimately decide to pursue advanced degrees in these fields. They also have special programs, which are indeed programs that are for specific organizations or agencies. They have one for historically Black colleges and universities. They also have a Young Investigator Research Award, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. They even have a Small Business Program Award. And lastly, they have university research program initiatives where the main goal of these is to kind of improve science and education, science and engineering education. So the Air Force Office of Scientific Research is divided into 4 scientific divisions, as indicated here. The one highlighted in orange, chemistry and biological sciences, that is the division that is most related to health research through kind of like their subfield, their human performance and biosystems. So they're looking at understanding mechanisms related to like biological, cognitive, genetic, neuro, and physiological markers associated with enhancing human capabilities, but as a way of increasing their service member performance capabilities. For the Air Force, it is important to engage their program managers with a concept paper before applying for funding through BAAs. And so next we're going to move to the Office of Naval Research. It was established in 1946. Their main goal is to make broad investments in basic and applied research to increase knowledge in order to maintain future naval power and to preserve national security. So their research covers a broad range of science and engineering disciplines. And with that, and program managers are their technical point of contact for their research. But what they hope is to solicit research that results in transformations by kind of following their research and development framework. So how they see that happening is you have research that kind of aligns to their research framework priorities. Then they allocate investment portfolios and accelerate decision-making to speed business execution. So these portfolios support the naval warfighting domains, and they offer insight into how researchers can contribute to the naval needs. So they have 5 research areas. You can see all of them listed here. The last one, again highlighted in orange, is the one that is most relevant to health research. So the health and biomedical priorities under that specific area include these 5 topics here. So auditory neuroscience, gut microbiology, biological and physiological monitoring and modeling, stress response, and undersea medicine and performance. The next is the Army Research Office. So again, founded in 1951, the research that they conduct is currently in 250 universities across the country. They have about 1,100 individual researchers that are working on these projects. And the results of their research are transitioned to the Army research and development community, industry, or academia. and with the goals of future technology that'll support the superiority of their soldiers. It's also important to note that with ARO, their research represents kind of the most long range. So with them, they see these applications coming online or being appropriate often 20 to 30 years away. And again, they're also another agency that focuses on high risk and high payoff research opportunities. All right, so, the objectives of the Army Research Office are to plan and direct the research program. They also want to foster an atmosphere for research within their labs. They hope to provide the civilian scientific community with a point of contact to the Army research community. And they also hope to encourage and promote scientific training and education in areas of interest of the Army. They too have specific divisions that you can see these three here. The one highlighted in orange, physical sciences, that is the one that is most relevant to health and biomedical research. And so that is kind of divided into three subsections: chemical sciences, life sciences, which include social sciences as well as physics. So when they talk about physical sciences, what they're hoping to focus on is basic research that discovers, understands, and looks at physical, chemical, and biological phenomenon. So this research is expected to lead in revolutionary capabilities. The areas of interest there for them include like sensing, communications, protection, wound healing for their soldiers, power, energy storage and generation, and also just the creation of materials that would hope to extend the performance of Army systems well beyond their current limits. So they have a couple of funding mechanisms, obviously the broad agency announcements that can be found on their website, grants.gov. There's many topic areas that are specific to the individual program areas, and they hope to solicit research that increases the knowledge in science and kind of advances the state of the art. They also, like the Air Force Office, has a special program funding mechanisms. So they too are looking to partner with historically Black colleges. They also have a young investigator, research program, and also a small business technology transfer program. So the last agency that we are going to focus on today is DARPA, or the Defense Advanced Research Projects Administration. So it's for about the past 60 years, DARPA has held on to their singular mission, which is to make pivotal investments in breakthrough technologies for national security. So their investment strategy kind of begins with a portfolio approach. They reach for like large and grand impacts, so they take on high risk in the pursuit of a high payoff. That's kind of one of the main hallmarks of their programs. They attempt to address a wide range of technology challenges as well as national security challenges. They partner with academic, corporate, and government entities with a constant focus on the nation's military services. So these are the 6 technical offices at DARPA. The first 2, highlighted in orange, again, are ones that are most relevant to health research, so the Biological Technologies Office and the Defense Sciences Office. Their current priorities of interest for these 2 technical offices are human-machine teaming, vaccine delivery, infectious diseases, synthetic bio, and neuroscience. Their funding mechanisms, they have DARPA-specific BAAs, again, that are many topics, areas that are related to the specific divisions. They also have seedlings, which is something that's very unique to DARPA. So A seedling is typically 3 to 9 months. It's a project that aims to answer a specific question. It involves a very limited number of personnel. So the seedlings kind of help them move from disbelief to an idea's plausibility, like is it going to work, to into mere doubt, which can lead to the next generation of their program ideas. They also have program announcements. They have proposer days where you can kind of meet and learn more about their funding opportunities. There's a quick turnaround for those. And also, since DARPA is looking for those short-term projects, often they might lead into long-term work within other kind of agencies within the DoD or even within themselves. It's also important to point out and note for DARPA kind of the role of their program managers. They go to great lengths to hire people to identify, recruit, and hire excellent program managers for their projects. They come from industry, academia, different government agencies, and they have very limited stints. It's typically 3 to 5 years, and so that deadline kind of fuels the sense of urgency that is often seen at DARPA. And they also suggest not getting too attached to their project officers or project managers because they have a pretty high turnover. But the project managers attempt to address the challenges broadly while always looking at kind of the next big thing, how they can expand their current project. They hope to define their programs. They're able to kind of communicate with the leaders in the scientific and engineering community. And also, so all of them are supported by experts in security, legal, contracting issues. They have a finance team, human resources, and communications that kind of help their program managers do the best that they can in the short amount of time that they're there and to make kind of the largest impact. So back to kind of the diagram of the agencies that we focus on this afternoon. I wanted to leave you with kind of, as Kelsey stated earlier, the Department of Defense is really interested in kind of cultivating young investigators, bringing them on and, you know, kind of making them interested in the topics that are relevant to the DoD. So all of these highlighted, excluding CDMRP down here, they all have Young Investigator Awards. So as you can see how they kind of differ depending on which agency you're working at. You know, for DARPA, theirs is typically 2 years. The Air Force Lab can be up to 3. And you can see the different funding amounts associated with each of them. So these are really good ways for people to kind of become familiar with the DoD, you know, their funding opportunities, and just kind of, you know, get in with them early on in their career. So actually, with that said, that is the end of my talk. Just to kind of preview, next week Maggie's going to discuss, so you found a funding opportunity, now what? An overview of the DoD application and review process. And also there's going to be the panel discussion where we're going to have consumer reviewers and researchers share their experience. So that is it for me. I think I'm going to turn it back over to you, Joe, to wrap up.
Actually, Brandi, this is Leanne, and we have a couple questions for you. So thank you very much for providing a closer look at the DoD agencies that fund health research. And one question is, what are the criteria for being a young investigator?
It kind of depends on the specific agency. So usually it is, you know, someone that's kind of, early in their career. I can actually get the specifics for the different programs, and we can include that in the notes for the research packet, if that would be easier. Yeah.
Okay, great. And also, you know, we have some faculty members on campus that have been funded by CDMRP, but beyond CDMRP, what is the best way to find funding, you know, for health researchers on campus to find funding in these agencies that support health research?
Yeah, so actually looking at, oops, let's change the display settings. That is a good question. So a lot of them, when I was talking about them, they have ones that are health specific. So if we look at just DARPA, these two agencies right here, you can actually go to grants.gov, and in the drop-down menu, you can pull current funding opportunities for their biological and technologies office or their defense science offices. So most of them have these opportunities on either their website or grants.gov.
Okay. Great, thank you.
You can also, sorry to interrupt, Leanne, you can also set up a search on grants.gov and save it. And it can send you weekly digests of relevant programs for your research areas. I find that really useful, especially when I was managing the brain health program years ago, because I could get items that were just focused on what I was interested in hearing about, rather than trying to have to scroll through a bunch of different opportunities.
Thank you. I know Kelsey touched on this a little bit at the end of her talk, but do we have anything to add about, people or units on campus that researchers can contact if they need help finding funding or reaching out to program officer, or, finding a good fit, a program that's a good fit for their research? Is there anything else to add there?
I don't know if Kelsey or Brandi want to take that one. I could probably speak to that as well.
Great.
So obviously, IHSI is here to help. Office of Proposal Development, I know a few of them are on the Zoom today. I'm sure they'd be willing to help as well as the network of research development professionals across campus. You could check with your college's Office of Research, for instance. They might be able to help you as well. So.
And we just got a new question: who can we contact for help making connections with people? So you sort of answered that. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but.
Well, yeah, I would just kind of piggyback on what Maggie said. Obviously, us at IHSI, especially, with the new push for, health disparities and racial equity. I would love to help you connect with other researchers on campus that, that is also their areas of interest. I know Kelsey's big in brain health, so she can help you with that.
Specifically, what about the clinical researchers and military populations?
I would say that one of our keynote speakers in week 3 of the workshop, Jenny Honeycutt, who works at the Ches Veteran Center, would be a great resource for connecting with military or veteran populations. So you'll get to hear her talk a bit more about that.
Great, thank you. I think we can send it to Jill at this point for any comments you would like to add.
Yeah, and Mary did just again poke on the clinical researchers. So at IHSI, we do have a clinical partnership core which is managed by Deborah Miller, our Assistant Director for Clinical Partnerships. And so she manages both the Mayo Clinic and Illinois Alliance, as well as our relationship with Carl. And I'm sure that she would be happy to work with you, and Leanne works directly with her to help you find some potential clinical partnerships. Yes. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today for our first session of the DoD Grant Writing Seminar Series. It's been wonderful to have all of you here, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Same time. Thanks a lot, everyone.